Okay, we're going to install Chocolatie on Windows, along with a few other things. And what I search for is install Windows Chocolatie or Chocolatie Windows. And it'll show up down here in my Chrome drop-down eventually. And click on the first item. And it's going to give you a list of things that you need to do to be able to install Chocolatie. So let's walk through that list and see what it is. Now, you'll notice that there are some known requirements there at the beginning, and the known requirements mean that I've got to go check a bunch of things. Now, if you have a reasonably new Windows system, that probably isn't going to be the case, but go and find that PS1 file and right-click on it, and then save it to the desktop will do fine. But that install.ps1 is the script for installing it using PowerShell. Now, to do this, I've got to be able to set some things up in PowerShell. And that has to do with the execution policy. We'll get to that. But first, let's verify that we have the correct version of .NET. We need at least 4.5. You'll notice that there's a warning in Chocolatie that it'll try to install 4. And I clicked on the first thing, which is registry editor. Oh man, I do not want to go into the registry editor to figure this out. This is really icky. There's got to be a better way. Let's see. No, they go right into how to do this with code. Apparently, like a lot of stuff in Windows, it's not very polished and it's very difficult to use it. At least that's my experience these days with Windows. So let's go back and find another one. Let's see, let's try this one. How to check if you have that. Oh. Okay, they have a script. Okay, now this is better. We have a PowerShell script that if we just download that again, I right-click on the link and do Save Link As, and it pops up on my desktop here in a second, and we'll go into PowerShell and run the script and see if we have the right version. Now, you can do that, type here to search down at the bottom to run PowerShell. You can use the start menu and go find it, but we'll just type in PowerShell. And, there it is at the top of the list, Windows PowerShell. Now, this runs it in non-administrative mode, but that's probably fine for this. And go into the desktop, and I have LS. You're probably going to have to do dir get star, and there is our get net framework. I didn't put a capital N. We'll back up over that and get that. .ps1, and it's going to give you a red nasty error message that says, no, although you have the PowerShell, you're not actually allowed to use it. And so now it's back to Google to figure out why we can't use the PowerShell on the system that is ours. And basically it's because, yes, there are fundamental security problems in Windows. Windows 95 is 25 years old today, and it still has the same security problems it had 25 years ago. So they keep patching around it. And let's get the right search. We need to enable this. How to enable execution of PowerShell scripts. And, yeah, I really don't want it to be restricted. That is what I don't want. That's what I've got now. And let's scroll down a little bit farther in the answers here and see if we can find one that's more suitable for us. And yes, unrestricted. That sounds bad. That's probably going to expose my computer, but we'll set it for a few minutes, then reset it. How's that sound? All right, so we can get the execution policy, and what I did is get -EX, and I hit a tab key to complete it, and it says restricted as I suspected. Now, to change it, you have to go into an administrative PowerShell. And that's over on the right where it says Run as Administrator. It turns out that Windows fixed its security problems from 25 years ago, but they didn't make it the default. So when you want to run something as administrator, you've got to do that. And you'll notice down at the bottom, I've now clicked on it twice unintentionally, but it's flashing. It doesn't give you a box to tell you anything. You've got to go click on it and say yes, and that yes does not get recorded in the processing here. You can't see that box, but yes, when it said run this, I said yes. And now what am I supposed to type? Set execution policy something. and I'll do set ex space and type in unrestricted. And that will actually allow me to, now you have to put in a capital Y here, although it says Y. You actually have to shift and Y, or you get no. Because they don't want you to just accidentally type Y and get it. They want you to have to actually shift and mean that you type Y. Now, if I get that, it's going to ask me again, do I want to run it? And yes, I really want to run this script. And there it is. Now, you'll notice my computer name is Dingbat. And the last number down there is 528040, but it didn't give me a comment to tell me what it was. So I still don't know. And that means that the comment is not in the registry either. Now, I think I closed the window that had all those numbers. So I'm going to have to go out and Google and search for those things. But the important thing is, you see that number is bigger than the one that the 4610808, and that was 4.7. And those numbers increase. So I've got at least version 4.7. But let's actually go out and see what version I do have. And to do that, I'm going to have to do another Google search and get back that other page that I said was icky and had all the numbers in it. So let's go find that. And what did I type? Check version of .NET installed, and let's click on that first one again where it has, yeah, there's the versions. That's nice. That's nice. And here's the numbers. And you'll notice that down at the bottom of that list, I have framework 4.8. It's bigger than that number, or it is that number. It is that number. So I do have net version of 4.8 installed. Now, if I go back to Chocolatie, it says you have to have at least version 4.5, so I've got version 4.8. And then to do the install, you have to be in the administrative shell. Now, that was the second PowerShell that I did, and here it gives you, here it gives you instructions for doing a set execution policy just for that shell once. That's what I want. And, all right, let's cut and paste that. Now, you'll notice that it got the period at the end of the sentence. I'm not going to want that, so I'm going to have to, like, when I paste it, delete that, or it'll give me an error. Make certain you use the correct Windows PowerShell. Yes! Because if you use the other one, this will not work. And there's the period. Delete that. And yes, you again have to tap capital Y, even though you're making it more restrictive. And all right, we reset our execution policy. And now, let's see if we have that. We are not in the right location. We are over in Windows System 32, even though, yes, we need to be somewhere on our desktop. So we need to get in that directory. C, users, Philip, which won't be you, that's my name, and desktop, whatever your desktop is. And now let's do directory for PS1. We've got that install script, and I really want the one without the blank in it. Even though I downloaded it twice for this video, we want that first one that just says install. There we go, in yellow. And we hit return. And yes, it is now downloading this thing correctly. And actually, it doesn't even take too long to install it after our diversion off into the land of all the things you have to do to actually be able to use your own PC and Windows. And at this point, yes, I'd like to check that I actually got it installed before I move on to the next thing. And the command is choco, and if you just do version, and there we go, and it says you have a version of it installed. Okay, now that's important for what we really wanted to install, which was Git on the system. And now we can go search for Git and to pick out the things that we need for Git to install it. My experience with Windows is, you end up with, I'm searching for install Git here. You end up with a lot of stuff like this that's really a distraction to actually using the system and downloading it. That's the one we want. I have a 64-bit system. You may have a 32. Either way, you want one of those first two to install it, and it takes a bit to download. If you, before the pandemic, went out and looked in a development shop in the Bay Area, what you'd see is that there would be two groups of people in the entire business that would have Windows PCs. The financial officer, because they have to use lots of things with Excel and things like Bloomberg Terminal that only work on Windows. And the quality assurance department that goes and tests using browsers that you can only get on Windows, like Windows Edge. And the rest of the entire development operation would be Macintoshes. And okay, it downloaded. Let's click on Run, and it's pretty fast. The rest of the development operation that would all be running on Windows with an occasional person who's really truly paranoid about security using Linux. And again, it's going to ask you next and some things. There was actually a pop-up box that said, do you really want to install this that can't be video recorded? Because of some security things having to do with Windows and how it works. And when I go through this, I'm just going to pick all the defaults for all the different kinds of things for Git. And after you go through all the defaults, okay, you click on Finish, and it takes a second to do the install. When we get done, we'll actually have a thing on our desktop that we can use to run Git from, which will be quite handy for a variety of reasons. With Chocolatie there, you're also going to get a whole bunch of tools that you can use so that when I do demos from the command line on Windows or on Mac, they actually work basically the same. Now, the slash that you see in the Windows file system, like C:\, that / is a backslash. Okay, the top of it points to the left and the bottom to the right. If I refer to something as being a slash, that's a divide symbol, and that is the slash character, and that's the top is to the... Did I say right last time? I'm so difficult with right and left. The top on a slash is to the right. The top on a backslash is to the left. So now you know one of my troubles in life. All right. And over here, there's this new little icon that says Git Bash that has 4 colors. And you'll notice it has one of those symbols with little branches and nodes. That's because that's the way we usually look at things in Git. And when I click and run on that, I get, yes, a little black terminal. This is like iTerm2, but doesn't have nice fonts. But it's actually running a shell script called Bash instead of PowerShell. And Bash comes from the land of Unix and works exactly the same way as the shell does on a Macintosh or a Linux system. So we have a common platform for doing development.